There are so many options out there that you can use to grow your business. And you don't have to use every tool. And this is part of what Raptor is designed around this office is we have all these options and you can pick which route you want to go. The second point is partially going back to the Fortune 500 companies that every single one of them has public relations efforts going on. And a famous quote by, I believe it's Gates, is if I was down to my last penny, I would spend it on PR. And I think that's a very powerful statement. A trend that you see in kind of the business teaching right now is branding and how important branding is. Well, how do you build a brand? With public relations. It's not advertising. How many brands have been built by advertising? Only a handful, but a tremendous amount have been built through the relationships they formed as a company, whether that's with the media or celebrities, which is all in that PR realm.
Welcome to Scale Smarter, where we dive into the world of business and explore practical tips and inspiring stories to help you scale your company without scaling your headcount.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Scale Smarter podcast. Today, joining us is the dynamic duo and powerhouse behind scaling businesses through media magic, Heather and Austin Holmes. Welcome, guys.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey.
So with over 13 years of experience, these two have helped brands from ambitious startups to multi-million-dollar enterprises skyrocket their visibility and grow exponentially. It's not just about being a PR expert for them. This husband and wife team are disruptors in the industry, making high-quality PR accessible to all with innovative technology solutions to back them up as well. Today, Heather and Austin are here to share their unique blend of tactical advice and personal stories. So buckle up for a whirlwind of insights, inspiration, and a peek behind the curtain of what it takes to scale smarter in the world of media and PR. So guys, I want to dive straight in. You've got an amazing story of how you grew your business, and I want to kind of skip ahead a few years because one of the things that I love about your story is how you managed to scale in the middle of a pandemic. So walk me through that. How do you grow a business to, over $1 million when everybody's in lockdown and panicking?
So I've been doing PR for almost 13 years, 12 years, and I first started the business from my mom's basement. So I built the business, was working full-time at a gym, was building the agency, me and a VA. And then in about 3.5 years, I'm like, okay, I can build my company full-time. This is my only income. From there, I went to LA on a press tour. This was in 2018. And I bought a one-way ticket and I stayed. Bringing in probably $3,000 to $5,000 a month, single, 25, 26, lived in the Midwest my whole life, wanted a change of pace and scenery. So then moved to San Diego, and I tell this because it's really the origin story to paint the picture. And lived in San Diego, revenue-wise, probably was like 3K to 5K. And my roommates at the time were going to live nomadically, so I had to get my own apartment. And to get the apartment, because my credit score was so bad, it was in the 300s, I invested everything in my business. I had to literally pay 3 months rent to get this. The studio apartment was like a shoebox, and it was $1,300 a month back in 2018. Okay, so I got my apartment on the beach in San Diego. My clients were solely on paying. I was in the red. I had no money to my name, and I was continuing to build the business. I still remember in December, there was a big trade show that I went to, right? I borrowed $5,000 from my mom. I invested $10,000 that I didn't have. I got 2 really big clients, and then I went to the Amtrak station. I didn't even have enough money to get home. I Ubered home $200. Fast forward 90 days later, I met Austin. He then became my boyfriend, and he was in the Navy at the time with a business background. And while he was deployed, we had conversations. What are our next steps? We want to travel. We want to figure out where we are, where we live. Do we do RV or Airstream? We chose Airstream. We then set out on the path of living full-time in an Airstream, figuring out where we wanted to live and continue to build the business virtually. And this was all way before the pandemic. Also, Austin was getting out of the military, and I didn't want to not see him all the time. So we made the decision to scale Publicity for good because of his business background, his passion for business, and really see where it went. But our decision to live nomadically in an Airstream was for the pandemic, and I was still trying to scale a 6-figure business, give or take, before Austin came on board. So I wanted to set the tone before we really talk about what was it like scaling to $1 million, because our first $1 million year was the pandemic. And when the pandemic hit, I pitched our story to the media, and that March, all the headlines were like how we were building a 6-figure PR agency from our Airstream. So we were still a six-figure agency. But Austin can really go into detail about like, well, how do we scale to $1 million? Like, what does that look like? Because he's really the master behind the scaling part, the business, the tactics, and all of those things.
I still remember sitting in the Airstream and having the call with our team and saying, okay, we're not getting rid of anybody because of the pandemic. We actually did make a fire that we should have made anyhow, and that was motivation in that moment. Because overnight, I guess over the course of a week, we lost 2/3 of our clients.
Yeah, we lost about 40%, I believe, of the business.
So we lost over 1/3 of our clients in that first week or so of 21 days to stop. And that was a very real moment for us. And I still remember having that conversation with our team, like, we're going to move forward and we are going to figure this out. And that was a turning point in a positive way, even though it was a very hard moment where we decided to move forward. And I had started working with PFG full-time a little bit before that, but the number that I always reference is in 2 years, we went from $12K a month to over $160 a month. And that moment in time was a huge part of that, where we made the conscious decision to grow this, move forward, figure it out. And we had help too. We were super fortunate to be connected to some awesome communities that helped us get to the place where we needed to get on a personal level, on a business level, and achieve the real first goal of breaking that 7-figure level.
Yeah, that's such a powerful story. And I guess, one thing that comes to mind immediately, going from, 6 to 12K months to over 100K months, like that's some pretty rapid scaling, right? Like talk me through that. Like, I'm sure there were some bottlenecks. I'm sure there were some surprises when you have that sort of rapid scaling. What kind of challenges popped up that you had to tackle?
I think the one that I was able to work the most with was hiring. There's so much content about having the right people in your business out there, and it's a vein that you see over and over and over again, and it's so true. If you don't have the right people in place, you're not going to move forward like you want to. You're going to stress yourself more than you need to. And we're going through this right now looking for a sales manager. I see it as pretty much no matter who we get, they're going to be able to do more with their 40 plus hours a week than Heather can do with her 5 to 10 hours a week dedicated to that area. And to me, that's a huge challenge. I'm not sure you ever fully figure out, but we've definitely moved forward in that regard from where we started.
Yeah, absolutely. Heather, how about you? Any kind of challenges that popped up that maybe unexpected ones that you had to resolve?
I would just say the biggest thing is that we were working remotely on the road. So when you're working nomadically or you're working on the road, it's thinking ahead about internet and Wi-Fi and all those things. Those are the things you don't think about until you have a call and the Wi-Fi isn't good or any of those things.
Yeah, and actually a number of the audience for us are in Australia and New Zealand who might not be as familiar with what an Airstream is. So I probably should have asked this before, but tell us a little bit, what's an Airstream?
It's a popular travel trailer in the US that has pretty awesome branding behind it. If you see the silver trailer being pulled behind as an RV, then that's what an Airstream looks like. It's pretty much in every car commercial as far as if they're towing a trailer for camping. But that's what we lived in for over 2 or over 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
And so we traveled around for the majority of 2 years, and then as we were finding a place to live, we were in it for about another year.
Awesome. And so that nomadic lifestyle, did the travel just give you freedom, or were you traveling between customers? Like, what did that nomadic lifestyle kind of add to the dynamic of growing the business?
We would do media meetups, influencer meetups, meet clients, go to events. We really tried to utilize it as a way to develop relationships.
The freedom part too, absolutely. I would add on, we were trying to figure out where to live. We were leaving California before the mass exodus. I left the Navy in 2019, and we already knew pretty far before that we were not going to stay there for multiple reasons. But we first asked the question of beach or mountains. We went with mountains because every time we vacation, we're going to the beach anyhow. Part of that travel was to find where we were going to live long term. We ended up halfway between the parents. Our office is actually within, I think, 4 minutes on Google Maps between Heather's mom in Ohio and my parents in Florida. Totally did that accidentally.
Yeah, I mean, I think there must be very few people out there that don't dream of just packing everything up and living that lifestyle, right? Like, I think all of us at some point have wished we could just pack things up and have that freedom. So that's amazing. It's so cool for you guys that you got to experience that. So off the back of that, building the business, scaling it, nowadays you guys work with a wide range of brands, from startups to those doing, hundreds of millions of dollars. Walk me through a little bit, like, how do you tailor your PR strategies to meet that sort of diverse range of clients?
So everything we do is around a brand's business goals, new product launches. Are they trying to drive traffic to their website? Are they trying to raise funds? Are they doing an exit? Are they really wanting to rank on Google? So what we do first is we look at, well, what are your major goals for the year? What are your marketing goals? And then from there, we build a strategic plan. We typically lean into building out the founder story, and then we look at areas of opportunity, what's happening in the news, what's trending, and then utilize that to help get publicity for our brand.
Amazing. And so, for those founders and entrepreneurs looking to scale through media, like you've touched on a couple of great points there, like what are the sort of most actionable tips you generally recommend, I guess maybe in terms of what they can do to lead up to being able to work with somebody like yourself?
So I always suggest to start with local media. Local media absolutely wants to feature local businesses. Podcasts are great. Every podcast that you do, the typical content is the same. So for entrepreneurs, it's a great way to get your story out there. And for every podcast interview, you typically get 30 pieces of content that you can utilize across the board. There's a lot of different websites as well. Medium.com example, we can literally become a contributor and write thought leadership pieces. But my biggest advice as well is you need to have a plan of integration. So when we partner with you, we really look at your marketing from a high level 360 perspective to ensure you're utilizing your publicity and articles into your marketing. Getting in the media is a marathon, not a sprint. It takes time to build up your story. It's not something that happens overnight, but we have seen brands grow market share. We have seen brands become industry leaders. We have worked with many brands that have had an exit, and why you stand out is your difference, your founder story, your hero's journey. That's really what makes a PR campaign successful.
I think, for me as a business owner myself, I feel like oftentimes the whole world of media and PR can seem a bit scary, right? You don't know what you don't know for a start. And then when you start getting into it, it just seems like there's so much to it that you've got to learn and that sort of thing. And so I'm interested, like, what are some of the common mistakes you see from maybe it's first time founders, maybe it's somebody who's come from a corporate background that's now moving into solopreneur in the space of them trying to get media attention?
I think I can speak to this because I've experienced it myself. Heather was coming from the background, but a huge thing that we always say is take everything. It's not the same as all press is good press. That's a different kind of concept. But so many people aren't willing to put in the work to get the word. And honestly, the smaller opportunities actually yield better conversions. And there is a limit to somebody scaling that up in their time. But somebody who's not willing to go through and build up their kind of presence across media, it's going to hurt them and they're not going to get the result. So putting in the time, getting those opportunities, whatever level they're at, and working your way up to the massive national opportunities or the international shows, that's a process. And I myself am in the process of this, of slowly building up one of our brands that I'm sure we'll talk about later into more of a player in the space.
That's kind of a great segue, because one of the things I know we spoke about before is around like the importance that bringing in technology aspects can create around these opportunities, right? So why don't we take a moment, walk us through, like, I know you've got some exciting things happening in the technology space that you're adding to your business model. And so I'd love, to hear a little bit more about that and what impact that's having on you and your customers.
Heather has had a dream of making public relations more accessible to more people across the world for a long time. And I think, Heather, you going into the background behind press to build up to where we're at now is a good way to start this.
Sure. I've been doing PR for 12 years. And yes, when you look at investing in a PR firm, it's premium pricing, $3,000 a month to $10,000 a month. If you look at a big agency in a big city, LA or New York City, it is a higher premium ticket, $10K a month. Not every brand can afford to invest that money every single month. But I've seen how businesses have scaled from publicity. I've seen a mom on TV tell her story in her local market and bring in $12,000. That was the most amount of money she has had come to her website, all new customers, right? I've seen an influencer, a coach, her business grow by 40% from getting into media. So I've seen not only the revenue that can come in from PR, I've seen the legacy, right? If we were to get you in the media, Charles, and people Google your name, like instead of you just promoting yourself, there's all these amazing articles about you and your story and all those things. I've seen how it really does work, and I've been doing this for 12 plus years. So years ago, back in probably 15 and 16, I had a dream of making a PR software. So I invested $12,000, which was way more than I was even bringing in at the time, to have a software created. Worked with a team in Ukraine to have this software created. I wanted to make PR more accessible over time. And then with that as well, I went through the whole process of bringing up the partner that wasn't the right partner, who didn't have a PR background, went through the process of buying them out and everything. And then since then, we created something totally separate. So the idea we had was an idea years ago, but we wanted a fresh start to again make getting in the media more accessible from a budget perspective. So that's really where we are right now, is making PR more accessible for when people have a great story or product. And quite frankly, like, their business is below 300,000, right? Like, if your business is above $1 million, then you typically have a budget for marketing and PR. But when you're just starting up, you don't necessarily have that. And time again, people are telling me that they wish they would have invested in PR sooner because it's driving traffic to their offers. They can incorporate all the media logos into their marketing. It helps them build their community. It helps them stand out in a very saturated space.
I always compare it of, you can do advertising and put $1 in and get $2 out or $3 out. But with PR, you're not targeting that dollar in, dollar out return. You're targeting a percentage of the market, and that is very scalable. I mean, look at any Fortune 500 company, they're doing it for a reason. In order to win in your space, it's a necessity. For over a year and a half, I actually was part-time after we had scaled the business a little bit and was working on other things. One of the things I learned was how to code. I spent about 6 months learning to code and realized I was terrible at it, and that if I was ever going to do anything for real, I would need to hire other people, going back to the very first topic. And so I spent part of that time looking for somebody to work on the project with me. I didn't find that, and so I moved on from that project. But when I came back with PFG full-time, I'm like, okay, I need to get back in the game and help grow this. I don't even know exactly how we got on it, but we did decide to start the software development process again. We looked at what press demand was, and it was outdated at this point. And so we made the new concept. We started with actually the 100 million offers process of funneling down what do clients really want. And at that level, it was three things. It was growing their audience, it was improving the relationships with people they're already connected with, and it was conversions. Whether that was for investment or for sales directly, that's what everything funneled down into, was one of those three categories. So we built a program around those three things on the public relations side, but also building a tool that enables that service to multiply and get the same outcomes that you would with an agency, but on a scalable solution. So we're in the process of building out that tech side. And of course, there's a lot of technologies that have come along in the past 2 years that have enabled us to do so much more for clients with a whole lot less input. People have responded incredibly to that program. I think we've had 1 out of 25 say no. I don't want to be a part of the early access on this program. And it's because it's such a valuable offer. The difficulty for us is going to come in scaling it. The other thing we try to do with the program is consistency of something that we're providing for the client, meaning every week they're getting something. And so that's articles, press releases, getting in the media, growth and development, just like you would have in a mastermind. We're trying to throw as much value in there so that people literally say, hey, I'm stupid for not being a part of this program. That's the goal for me, is to have such a good product that people feel stupid saying no. And that creates some problems with scalability, but that's what we're working on, and tech really helps us with that. So now we're up to a development team of 16 people, and we're moving quickly on that front.
A development team of 16 people is no joke. That's
If I hadn't learned to code, I would have no idea how to do that. But along with that process, I studied the tech industry, and I was able to pull some lessons. Like it would be incredibly difficult for somebody to step in, not have that background, not have an agency to back it up with its own staff to actually create those deliverables, and the experience of 8 years process and procedure, it would be very difficult for somebody to duplicate.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds amazing. For those people out there listening at the moment, like, are the doors open? Can they sign up? Or you've got sort of a closed beta going at the moment?
It is semi-closed at this point. We've only opened it up to like past clients and other people we have relationships with, but we are officially launching on July 4th. Here in America, that's kind of a big day. That's the day we picked to officially launch.
Perfect. By then, we'll make sure we have lots of links in the video for everyone as well, so they can check it out. So many of the people I connect with are early stage founders, and that absolutely sounds like something that they need. And I'll have a chat to you as well, because it sounds like we could use it for our business for sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting product right now because we're able to fully provide the outcome because we're doing it at the agency level. It's very interesting to see. Part of it is the scalability, and that's a huge thing that we're talking about is, how do you scale this? And there's going to be so many problems with that. I can already see. Luckily, we have some amazing team members who have been there and seen how it goes. But the product itself is already there because we can deliver it as the agency.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to throw one little curveball at you with that. You mentioned, the traditional model of put $1 into media, get $2 out. Coming from a background where I built a startup, I had investors, that kind of stuff. Investors don't like something that's not tangible, right? Like, they want $1 in, $2 out. So walk me through, like, I'm a startup founder, I've got some investors, and I'm trying to convince them that we need media coverage. How do we get those really kind of analytical investors who just want to see dollars in and dollars out to take media seriously?
I think there's two ways to approach that. There are so many options out there that you can use to grow your business, and you don't have to use every tool. And this is part of what Raptor is designed around. The software is we have all these options, and you can pick which route you want to go with. The second point is partially going back to the Fortune 500 companies, that every single one of them has public relations efforts going on. And a famous quote by, I believe it's Gates, is, if I was down to my last penny, I would spend it on PR. And I think that's a very powerful statement. A trend that you see in kind of the business teaching right now is branding and how important branding is. Well, how do you build a brand? With public relations. It's not advertising. How many brands have been built by advertising? Only a handful, but a tremendous amount have been built through the relationships they've formed as a company, whether that's with the media or celebrities, which is all in that PR realm. On the flip side, I can say Red Bull did a very successful job of building a brand with advertising. And I think they spent $250 million on that first campaign. And you can spend significantly less to build a brand.
Yeah, no, well, we don't all have $250 million hiding in our back pocket to throw at advertising, right? So we focused a lot on the kind of where the business is now. And I'd love to kind of just circle back for a moment. You also touched on the importance of founders' origin stories. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about what got you into this space in the first place. What kind of led to the passion that kicked all of us off?
I mean, what led me into this space was a cute girl. But
that's the best reason.
I will say that we work with primarily CPG brands, and it's a fascinating industry. It's very competitive, and there are a lot of barriers to being successful. That's why a lot of people who you see that do have success in the CPG space are on their second or third business because it's so competitive. But I know Heather has a much deeper background in why she loves the food space. I mean, I do love eating, but I know Heather has a great story on this.
I remember in my 20s, I was a wine tender at a wine shop, and a local TV crew was doing a story on boomerang kids that graduated from college and lived at home. So a TV crew came to my house, did a whole feature on me and my mom, and it was that moment where I really fell in love with media. There was a news anchor in the local market that always covered for good events and charities and nonprofits and everything. And with that, I fell in love with the idea of media. I put a tweet out on Twitter at the time that I was looking for a PR internship, and then from there I ended up interning at a PR firm. And I quickly realized, like, prior to that, I thought I wanted to go into public policy, but I realized that we could do one interview, one TV segment, and reach millions of people. That was really how I saw that I could make a difference. And all these founders started their companies for a reason. So we really love working with founders, people who started their own companies, who are just fighting a good fight with their business and wanting to make a difference in the work that they do. So we work with companies and people that are making a difference day in and day out, and it's what what keeps us going is the mission that we're behind.
Yeah. I mean, I know even when we chatted previously, you mentioned the importance of having that sort of purpose-driven component to your business, right? And it sounds like you've got a very solid purpose behind what you're doing, which is a very noble purpose, I think, for you guys as well, which is awesome to hear. And so in terms of businesses, focusing on having that powerful purpose, how do you see companies effectively integrate that into their messaging? Is it grassroots level, how they interact with their team? Walk us through what you see there.
I can tell you a huge inspiration for us was the Thrive community, literally wearing the shirt. That's why I bring it up. And Cole Hatter is now somebody we consider a friend, and he's been a huge influence in that realm of saying, hey, you can do business and you can make money, but you can also make a positive impact in the world at the same time. And we're true believers in that concept of there's a better way to do it.
Yeah, but I also think getting the media can help with retention overall, right? It helps you really draw out your values and mission. And I really feel like now as companies need to lean into their values and mission. So I definitely can see not only will it help you scale your brand, get your name out there, leave a legacy, grow your business, but you can utilize it to attract the right people to work for you.
That's really cool. And I was wondering about the Thrive Tribe shirt there. So thanks for touching on that, Austin. As we start sort of winding up here, I want to shift focus a little bit because, we've talked a lot about the business side of things, and something I think, most startups don't talk a lot about is there's this big component to us growing our business, and that's our family, right? Even at the time of recording, you guys are raising a young family. You've got 40 weeks pregnant, I think, at the moment, right, Heather? So you got another one on the way. And so you're doing all of this while raising a family and growing a new addition as well. So talk me through how that kind of affects the dynamic.
It's certainly more challenging with two young children running around. Well, one's running around.
Yeah.
And our daughter is the older of the two, and she has gotten the extreme versions of both Heather and I, and is going to make a great publicist or salesperson or something one day. And it's an interesting problem to have because you want to sit there and spend time with your kids, but you also want to build a business for their future at the same time. And I'm absolutely a believer in legacy, the other side of it. None of it matters after you're gone, but I do believe in building a better world, and that legacy alone is worth working as hard as we can to contribute in a positive way so that our kids have a better future, so that they have a better society to live in. And that's why we choose to work with the brands that we do. We work with purpose-driven brands because they're all making this positive impact in the world, and that's why we love working with them. That enables us to work that much harder for them without worrying about it, because you're a true believer for your client.
It's not easy, for sure. I feel like every day is a fight to do the work, right? There's challenges that pop up. You got to deal with it. But when you see the vision of where you're going, I think that's what keeps us going. We know we're creating something. Our hope is that our kids can make it better. And we see the amazing things that are happening to the brands and clients that we work with when they're getting in the media. So that's what keeps us going.
And from a practical standpoint, we have help too. We absolutely rely on our community. We have somebody that comes to the house and helps us with both the kids and just house stuff, and that makes life easier. It's communication with Heather and myself, and we've always had some version of this. We've gone through several different versions to how we communicate, how we get aligned. I'll never forget this phrase. Heather early on was saying, "Can you hold space for me?" And coming from the military, I had no idea what that meant. It was like, what are you talking about? What's this hippie stuff? But I fully understand that concept now of making sure that we're aligned. We have a couple different versions of it now. The primary one is coffee talk, which we love, sitting on the couch now in the morning and just, hey, what's going on in your day? What questions do we need to answer for each other? Who's taking care of the kids during whatever podcast? And we move forward from there.
I love it. I've got a 3-month-old at the moment, and I would happily just spend all day with him. It is incredibly difficult to pull yourself away from the family, but like you say, having that purpose and knowing that you're doing it to make a better life for them and leave a legacy for them, it's such a powerful statement. I love the way you put that. So for any listeners out there who want to learn more about you guys, about your services, what's the best way for them to connect with you? Where should they find you? And we'll obviously add a bunch of links into this video video for people as well?
Yeah, so you can go to publicityforgood.com. You also can go to signalraptor.com, and then you can also find Austin or myself on social media. You can send us a DM if you have questions or anything, but you can put our social media handles in the show notes too.
I pretty much became a ghost for a while between the Navy and not wanting that exposure in that realm. So I'm just starting to rebuild that. If you want to find me, the best place is LinkedIn, and it's Austin Holmes.
Awesome. Yeah, no, we'll make sure to add those in, and particularly this podcast will likely go live just after your big Raptor go live. So we'll make sure we link back to that as well for everybody, because I'm sure there's going to be lots of people that want to know more about that. So any sort of final pieces of advice for kind of aspiring entrepreneurs out there looking to make their mark in the media space?
I would say if it's on your intention, if it's on your heart to start a business, to just do it. But I would say always find a mentor who is ahead of you, but also ensure that your mentor is in alignment with where you want to go. So if you want to live nomadically, find a 7-figure nomadic entrepreneur. If you want to be family and have kids, right, you need to find a 7-8-figure entrepreneur that's a mom too, because there's so many different dynamics that come in when you're running a business and you have a family and you're a mom and those things, right? Like, you should only take advice from people that are aligned with you and have the same thing going on as you.
I think it's a challenge, and no one should walk into it thinking it's going to be easy. The amount of stress is difficult for most people to deal with, and I don't think it's the right fit just for that reason for a lot of people. But consistently, entrepreneurs make bigger differences in the world than anybody else. And so for the people who have that calling on their life, if you want to call it that, it's absolutely something that the world needs. And if you're willing to go through that pain, I would say yes, do it. Doing it with your spouse, though, has its own unique set of challenges.
Yeah, no doubt.
And when you're living in a 200 square foot or 10 square meters, maybe, that's probably bad math. Very small space.
Yeah.
Traveling full time with your spouse, then that definitely is a different challenge, but it will test you. And so be prepared for that. Don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Move forward from your fails, from your failures, and realize that at every stage along the way, there are rewards to keep you going. It's a continuum and there's levels. So as you move forward, there is always a next goal. There's always a better level.
There's so much gold in not only that, but I think everything that you've shared with everyone today. So Heather, Austin, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate everything you've shared today. For those listening, like I say, we'll share all the links so that you know how to get in touch with Heather and Austin and learn more about what they're doing. And once again, yeah, thank you so much, guys, for joining. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Charles. We'll have to do it again.
Yeah, no, definitely. We'll talk again soon. And to everybody else out there, just continue to scale smarter.